What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. In this one, we're talking captaincy ahead of game week 28. I don't think there's too many standout captains this week. I think people are a bit unsure about who to go for. So as always, we're going to look at the defensive numbers, the attacking numbers for the players that people are considering. There's 5 full matches to go through. Plus, we'll talk about all the others at the end. So if you do enjoy it, please do give it a like. Hit subscribe if you're new around here. It's not too long until the deadline, so I'll have a deadline stream later as well. Other than that, let's just jump into it and get on to the first match. So first up, we have Arsenal versus Spurs. Now, Arsenal are a team at the start of the season, like I said, we probably didn't need to worry about too much in terms of, targeting them. And I'm not saying they were like a West Brom or a Fulham or a Leeds at the start of the season, but they weren't necessarily a team to fear in terms of defensive returns. They didn't keep a huge amount of clean sheets, but those numbers are still looking pretty good now for the whole season, and they have improved a bit as the season's gone on as well. So over the course of the whole season, 1.16 expected goals conceded. That's probably in the kind of top 6, top 7 in the league, so not doing badly at all. Maybe not a team to target anymore. And in the last 4, it's 1.06. So it's got a little bit better, although they have played Burnley, Leicester, Man City, and Leeds in that time. So they've not even played easy teams. It's not like when we see sometimes our team's defense looks really good, but they've just played Burnley and Palace and Newcastle, etc. Right? There's some good teams in here. Leicester, Man City, and Leeds are a good attacking team as well. So to improve those numbers a bit over those fixtures is actually pretty good, and that is what kind of puts me off Harry Kane a little bit in terms of captaincy. I know some people will be looking at Bale and Son as well. It's just that I expect this match to be potentially cagey. The problem is it's a derby, right? And so you never know exactly how to call these games, how they'll go. If there's an early goal, will that change the match? If that early goal goes to Spurs, will then Mourinho... I don't think he's going to look to set up shop. I think he's got too many good attackers now, with Bale rested again in the Europa League last night as well. But he maybe won't be quite as attacking as before. Maybe that's being a bit harsh now. Maybe now he's got Bale fit, he's a bit more confident in them going forward. So looking at the Spurs player attacking numbers. And by the way, I'm not talking about Arsenal for captaincy because I don't think many people own Aubameyang and Saka. And if they do, I doubt they're looking at them for captaincy. That's the only reason I'm not mentioning it. But Harry Kane's numbers are so good. 11 shots in the box, 7 chances created. Highest expected goal involvement over the last 4 games for any player in the league. But obviously they have played Crystal Palace and Burnley within those last 4 matches. So that is helping a bit. Arsenal is going to be a little bit more of a difficult challenge than those matches have been. But you cannot deny Harry Kane looks great right now, and I don't think captaining him is completely out of the question this week. I think a lot of people will go for it, and I think he's probably actually, if you go and look at various polls around different sites, I think he's actually slightly higher than Bruno Fernandes. Whether or not that actually happens when the when we see the data when the deadline's gone past, I don't know. But yeah, I think Harry Kane's as good as anyone this week. Personally, it's not where I am looking to go because I just worry about Arsenal's defence actually not being too bad. As long as they don't make any silly mistakes. That's what's happened recently. They're making mistakes, and that is leading to chances. It's not necessarily the opposition, getting into the best positions or creating the best chances. Arsenal defence being their own problem. We saw Xhaka against Burnley, for example. Another mistake last night in the Europa League as well. So obviously with Bale, Son and Kane to worry about, perhaps you'll get turned into making those mistakes a little bit more. Just quickly in terms of the other players, Son is shooting a lot less. His expected goal involvement is quite high, very similar to Bale, but lots of that is coming from assist potential now rather than shots. Whether or not that's a trend we're going to continue to see, I don't know. This is a small sample size. Bale's only started recently. Who knows? If teams start marking Bale out of the game, maybe Son gets a little bit more freedom. That could happen. But ultimately, I think Kane's a good captain, but I don't think he's as good as everyone's making out. All these, all this talk of records gone past, how good his record is against Arsenal. Different teams back then, different Spurs team, different Arsenal team. I think this one could be particularly cagey, and that's why I'm probably not going to captain him. But if anyone was, I certainly wouldn't sit here and argue that it's a bad decision. So we'll talk about Leeds versus Chelsea next. Now, a lot of people are looking at bringing in Chelsea players this week. Whether or not they'll go as far as captaincy, I don't know. I think there's probably still too many worries over rotation right, under the new boss there at Chelsea, to maybe consider captaincy. But Leeds has always been a good fixture this year, right? We've always kind of targeted it. We've seen Bruno Fernandes get big hauls. Man City should have got a big haul in the reverse fixture. Salah, etc., started the season. So lots of big hauls from a lot of players against Leeds. And one of the reasons for that, you can see 1.6 expected goals conceded over the whole season is one of the worst in the league. I think it's second worst in the league. But interestingly, it's got a bit better recently. 1.13 over the last 6, 1.02 over the last 4. And you would probably expect those numbers to get a little bit better as the season goes on, right? Especially when they, now they've got like Llorente and Cooper back, their centre-back partnership. Leeds have barely had their first choice defence fit for this whole season. Calvin Phillips missed out. It's not making excuses. The way they play is always going to be liable to conceding chances. But recently they have had those centre-backs fit. Obviously, Stroke's played there as well, and he's played quite well in recent times. So I would expect the numbers to get better, but maybe not quite that much better. So 1.13 is similar to what Arsenal is for the whole season, and 1.02 is pretty decent. Looking at the teams they've played, West Ham, Villa, Southampton, and Wolves in the last 4. And if you look at the last 6, it's Arsenal and Palace. So you might say the fixtures have had a pretty big part in that, right? Palace not scoring many goals. West Ham scored a couple, could have had a few more chances, but when they were winning comfortably, like 2-0, in the second half, they didn't really attack as much, so perhaps that had something to do with it, the way the game went. Villa are obviously without Grealish right now. Wolves aren't scoring too many goals. Arsenal aren't scoring a huge amount either, although they did put 4 past Leeds in that game. And Southampton have just been off the boil, and Ings has been injured and stuff like that as well. So I'm not sitting here saying that Leeds have been lucky or anything like that. I think that is a good improvement, and if we continue to see that trending, perhaps they're not a team that would look to target. But in terms of Chelsea, that's the other thing that puts me off, right? They look very good under Tuchel, and defensively they're very sound, but they are not scoring a huge amount of goals. And again, Leeds will give them chances, but I don't know if it's as many as people are probably thinking it will be. And I think the game plan for Chelsea is going to be to control the game, because he's going to know how Leeds are going to approach this. They're going to attack. And if Chelsea can get on the ball, yes, there might be counter-attacking opportunities with Werner, but Leeds are going to give them a good game. And I don't think it's going to be... I don't want to say it's not going to be open, but I don't think Chelsea will score as many as people are probably thinking about. So like Mason Mount, 3 chances created. Oh, sorry. Werner, 6 shots in the box, 3 chances created, and it's kind of the opposite for Mount. He doesn't have as many shots in the box, 5, but he has created 8 chances. But their XGI, 1.3, 1.57. It's not bad, but these are not massively attacking. They are attacking players, but Chelsea right now are not necessarily this big attacking team. I think Tuchel's come in, sorted out the defence, kept them organised. They obviously get goals still, but it's not 3-4, 5-0 necessarily. And maybe that's to come in the future. Maybe now Havertz is back, that'll be a thing as well. But we just don't know yet. And for me, the numbers that we're seeing from Leeds, I wouldn't put too much emphasis on them, but they are improving. And the fact that Chelsea haven't gone out and absolutely smashed any teams apart yet, that would probably put me off the captaincy, let alone the fact they might not even start. I know a lot of people looking to bring him out, maybe bring in Werner as well, but for captaincy, for me, it's a step too far. Following on from Leeds, talking about their defence improving, you want to talk about another one, look at Fulham's numbers, right? 1.36 over the season is actually pretty good. I think that's slightly better or around the same as Everton, right? And every time I mention Everton as a team to maybe look for goals, everyone tells me no. So if we're saying that for Everton, then you've got to say the same for Fulham, right? And 0.8 over the last 6, 0.88 last 4. And I looked at the fixtures, so they've actually played some pretty tricky games over the last 4. At least 2 tricky, 2 not so tricky. So Liverpool away, and I think Liverpool, I can't remember if they had a shot in the box. Not very many if they did, but we know how poor Liverpool have been recently. Then Spurs at home, and then Palace away, Sheffield United at home. So the Palace and Sheffield United games, obviously, you'd expect them to do quite well. Then it's Burnley and Everton before that. So they have had some pretty kind fixtures overall. But Liverpool and Spurs are no pushovers, and they kept Spurs, down to just 1 goal. I felt like, I don't know, I watched that game. Maybe I'm putting too much emphasis on that game, but I watched it, and I felt like with the right pass, the defence could have been exposed a bit more. The amount of times Spurs won the ball high up the pitch and just couldn't get that final ball through to kind of Bale or Kane or Son. And I just wonder if Man City will have a bit more about them getting that ball through. When you've got De Bruyne on the ball, for example, he can make those passes kind of every single game. And this is one of those where what if I've spoken about this week? I find in the FPL community a lot of people back the defence. They don't back the attack. So they're looking at Fulham saying they're improved defensively. They're not looking at Man City, the best attacking team in the league, and saying they could still get some goals here. And yeah, of course, you want a team to score 3, 4, 5 goals, and Fulham haven't conceded more than kind of 2 goals for a long time now. But looking at the numbers, like De Bruyne, 8 shots in the box, 12 chances created, 2.27 expected goal involvement. And also, the thing I like about him is he's still quite lowly owned, so that's something to consider. I'm probably going to put my captain armband on him. Mahrez has been brilliant as well, 1.85. These are only slightly better than the Chelsea numbers we just spoke about, but I have more faith in Man City scoring a lot of goals, even if they are playing Fulham. But 8 shots in the box for Mahrez, 7 chances created, and I think because he came off on 60 minutes in the last game, he's likely to start this one. I think if you own Mahrez, you're probably already thinking it's just enough to own him, but he has to be. Like, if we're talking about De Bruyne being a genuine captain contender this week, then Mahrez has to be one as well, right? The only reason I wouldn't even consider bringing him in right now, just to go off on a slight tangent, is we've seen this before. He starts 6, 7, 8 games in a row, then he just stops starting for whatever reason. And we just don't know. It's Pep, right? And then he starts up again, and you think, well, I'm not bringing him in because he'll get rotated, and he doesn't get rotated. And that's what's happened recently. But he has to be a genuine contender. Gundogan, I'd be a little bit more concerned about. I still feel like he's picking up good positions in the box, but unless he's not going to create something out of nothing necessarily. And so unless they find him, he's not getting enough shots away. So he's only actually had 3 in the box and 6 chances created. I think last week, perfectly fine captain because Man City or Southampton were the only teams that were doubling. But going forward, I think if I'm going to captain a Man City player, it won't probably be Gundogan. I think for most people, they'll take him off their captaincy list. Not to say he's a bad player, and he is going to start most games, but he did play 90 minutes as well. So that would probably put me off a little bit. So for this one, it's really, do you trust the attack or do you trust the defence? And if you think Fulham are going to keep Man City down to just 1 or 2 goals, then arguably perhaps you should look elsewhere, because if Spurs score 1 or 2 goals, then Kane, Bale, probably quite highly involved. If Man City score 2 goals, who's got them? Sterling, Mahrez, Foden, De Bruyne, Jesus, whoever plays, they can all score. So that's maybe the one thing that would slightly put me off a Man City captain, but I still really like De Bruyne this week. Manchester United versus West Ham United. This is an interesting one for me because I look at stats all the time for FPL, but a lot of the time it's for my own team or it's for specific questions for Game Week previews, it's for my watch list or whatever it might be. This is the only one where I go into kind of a bit more detail about all the team stats as well as the player stats that we'll be looking at. And even I was surprised at this, right? I've said like for a lot this season, and obviously egg on my face for a lot of it because Fernandes has done brilliantly, and penalties has been a big factor in that. But he has scored plenty of open play goals as well. But at times, he doesn't get forward enough, doesn't have enough shots in the box, and somehow still manages to get points. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you shouldn't captain him. And I will say all the expected data, so the expected goal involvement, is without penalties. Now, I know people are going to scream at me, but he's got penalties. I get that. It's just to give a fair comparison across players. You then add your own context about the penalties, right? So Kane's numbers were without penalties. I think De Bruyne's were as well. I say I think. They should have all been, right? So De Bruyne and Kane, they all have penalties, we think. But it's not looking great for Fernandes right now. Last 4 matches, 0.55 expected goal involvement is really low. And obviously one of the reasons for that was the Man City game. Yes, he got the penalty, but not too much to do outside of that. But that's just the way those matches go against Man City. Only 2 shots in the box over the last 4. That's so low. Still created 9 chances on a few set pieces here or there, and obviously creates a lot from open play. But those numbers are not great. And then you look at West Ham, again, they're a defence similar to Arsenal, I would say, over the season. 1.16 expected goals conceded. And again, they've had some improvement over the last 4. But you look at the matches, Leeds, Man City, Spurs. They're the 3 teams they've just played. Leeds, Man City, Spurs. And they've kept the score down in pretty much all of those. Then it's Sheffield United, Fulham, Villa after that. So West Ham are not a defence that I would necessarily target heavily in general. I don't think we should be afraid of them. Like, I'm not. If I had Bruno Fernandes, I certainly wouldn't be afraid about him playing. And I would think about captaining him for sure. But I don't think the numbers are looking that great. And I just think to myself, will they improve against West Ham? And possibly they will. Right, this is the reverse fixture where he came. I've said this a few times this week. He came on at half time and created like 6 to 8 chances in the second half, and Man United really went for it. But Rashford could be out, Martial could be out, Cavani could be out. All these players missing means it's going to be like a front three of what? James and I can't remember the other guy's name. Greenwood, obviously. Why can I think of that? Diallo played a bit last night in the Europa League. Will he come in? Who knows what that front three will look like for Man United? But it is a little bit of a worry. And I don't want to sit here and say that Bruno Fernandes is not a good captain just because I don't own him, because that's not true, and I do try and remain unbiased for this. But you match those defensive numbers with Bruno's current numbers, and it's just possible that this week might be a good week to go somewhere else. But as ever, if you're not sure and you want to default to a captain, then Bruno Fernandes, like he has all season, always gets points. So I don't think he's a bad option at all. But for whatever reason, his shots are down, and he's maybe playing a little bit deeper at the moment. And possibly, with the players that are missing, if they are still missing, we find that out in the press conference later, then maybe he'll have to get forward a bit more. But no Pogba, no Martial, no Rashford, no Cavani. If they're all missing, then I do worry a little bit about this game. And West Ham do have the ability to control games and defend well as well. So, I mean, it looks good on paper, but I'm not sure when you delve a bit more into it how good of a captain option he is this week. What a mixed bag, right? Liverpool are at the moment. Like, I keep getting told to sell Mohamed Salah, and then he scores in the Champions League, and there's still a lot of people telling me to sell him, but then so many other people are now thinking of keeping and even captaining him, right? Which I'm not sure they would be doing if he hadn't scored in the Champions League. And you look at the numbers, okay, he's taken a few more shots than Bruno, 6 compared to the 2, but it's not that high. His expected goal involvement's only 1.3. Mane's is 1.57, who's taken just one less shot, but created a few more chances. So these are players that right now haven't been doing that well at all. And obviously the minutes and stuff they've played over the last 4 has been a little bit weird, because Salah came off early against Chelsea. Mane didn't start, and then he came on late in the game for one of them as well. So that's all to take into consideration when we do this. But yeah, Liverpool maybe not looking great. A lot of emphasis is now being put on the fact that Fabinho started in midfield. I should say there's absolutely no guarantee that happens in the next game, but hopefully it will. I think it makes a lot more sense to have one of your best midfielders in midfield and let the defenders who are defenders play in defence, right? I think Fabinho has done a great job at centre-back. He has to be one of Liverpool's best players this season, to be fair. He's done a great job at centre-back, but if they can just give a bit of time to like Kabak and whoever it might be next to him, and obviously that's if he's fully fit, to continue to get a partnership going, with Fabinho shielding in front. And the thing is, when Fabinho's in that midfield, it means Thiago Silva can go and do his thing as well. Maybe he hasn't got to do so much defensive work, although obviously in a Klopp team, everyone works hard, but it might give him a little bit more freedom to thread those passes through up front as well. So there's some promise, but we are basing this on one Champions League game, right? We don't know that for sure. So I do think, I think blind faith is a little bit harsh, but I do think there's some, well, it's Salah, we know what he can do. And it's Wolves, whose defensive numbers have not been that great. They're nowhere near as good as last year, where they were one of the best defences. 1.32 expected goals conceded over the season. That's got slightly worse over the last 4 games, and the 6 games as well. They've played Villa, Man City, Newcastle, Leeds, Southampton, Leicester. So they haven't had easy games, but this is not going to be an easy game either. So I actually really like Salah. And the more I hear, the more I think a lot of people are going to captain him. But in a week where some are going to go Kane, some are going to go Fernandes, some people might go De Bruyne, might go Mahrez, might go Sterling, who I didn't really talk about too much, but he's surely likely to start against Fulham. You might get a slight differential out of Salah, right? And I say that, it's not going to be like a 20% owned Salah. Like, I think his effective ownership will be brinking or kind of getting close to like 70-80%, maybe even higher. But I'm not sure any captain is going to go massively over 100% this week. And maybe Salah is just an outside bet. If you've got Mane, you could say the same thing about him. But I looked recently at Salah's kind of own numbers over the kind of last 6, and up until recently, he's been competing with the likes of Fernandes, etc. as well, and his numbers have been fine. Overall for the season, his expected goal threat is down per 90 minutes over last year. Little bit of a concern, but I think for this Wolves game, Wolves, their defence is still okay, but it's not the same defence that we saw last year at all. And obviously there is this hope that now that Fabinho's in midfield, that will improve Liverpool. We'll have to wait and see a few more games just to see exactly what happens. But the other thing I'll just quickly touch on is I've seen some people worry that Salah might be due a rest, but after this game, Liverpool don't play for another 3 weeks. So it's a big rest, right? They don't play in Game Week 29, and I don't think there's any international football for these two either. So they're going to get a long break. I don't see them being rested, especially if Firmino's still out. Then a Mane, Jota, Salah front three looks ideal, with Fabinho behind Thiago Silva, but Thiago as well. Who knows what they can do? So I actually quite like this as an outside shot. I don't think it's a no-brainer like before, maybe for Mo Salah, but I don't think it's a bad week either. I think it's a good time where you can do something a little bit different. If you've got a hunch or a gut feeling, maybe this is the week to do it. If that's Mo Salah, yeah, I think that's fine, because look what he's done the last 3.5 seasons. He hasn't just become a bad player over the night. The goals are coming. Let's hope it's this week. Okay, just quickly touching on some other matches. There isn't really too many to go for. I've already gone through 5 because I just felt like this week was worth going through a few more. One that stands out is Leicester versus Sheffield United. Now, not long before I started recording this, I've just seen that Chris Wilder, I think he's gone, right? He might be gone. By the time this video goes out, he could be. But it looks like the rumours have started that he's going. And who knows? You get a new manager bounce, I don't know. But Sheffield United's defence hasn't been great this year at all. So if you've got the likes of Vardy, he could be good. Although I'd still worry if Maddison and Barnes aren't available for this game, which I don't think Barnes is for sure. And who knows about Maddison? We're waiting for the press conference. I am recording this before most of the press conferences. But Vardy could be an outside shot. I wouldn't go for anyone in Brighton, Southampton. I think Everton versus Burnley, it's maybe actually a little bit harsh for me not to have talked about that game. And Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison have to be options. Burnley are not defending well recently. They can be gotten at. Arsenal should have scored more against them than they did. And right now, actually, you could make an argument for Richarlison over Calvert-Lewin. If you look at season-long stats, Calvert-Lewin is still ahead. But recently, there has been a change. They're playing the two up top, and Richarlison's looking really good. And off memory, I think over the last 4 or the last 6, Richarlison has doubled the amount of shots in the box than Calvert-Lewin's had, so he could be an outside shot. And then Villa versus Newcastle, Grealish is out. If I had Watkins, I'd absolutely play him, but I don't think that I would look to captain him. And let's not even talk about Crystal Palace versus West Brom. So I think out of the teams I've not mentioned, Vardy, Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison are probably the players to look at. But let me know in the comments below, who are you captaining this week? So there we go. That is captaincy done. Let me know below who you're going for. Like I said, give it a like if you've enjoyed it. It's been helpful, and hit subscribe to over 147,000 subscribers now. We're so close to 150k. I really want to get there before the end of the season. If you've not clicked the button, please make sure you do. I'll have a deadline stream tonight. Keep an eye out on YouTube and Twitter for when that will be. The deadline's 6:30, I think. So usually it'll be a 5:30 start. But I'm probably going to start a little bit earlier. So I might go like 4:30 and do like a 2-hour deadline stream. So keep an eye out for that one as well. Lastly, if you haven't signed up to Patreon and you want to support me and the channel a little bit further, there's a link in the description below. Everyone that signs up goes up on the Legends wall. So thank you to everybody that already has. There's Slack access, early team reveals, videos converted to podcasts, and all that good stuff as well. And yeah, if you want to sign up, link in the description below. I'll leave it there. Thank you for watching. In terms of captain, mine's currently on De Bruyne. I think next up in my team would probably be Salah and then Harry Kane. But I don't think there's really a right or a wrong this week. Although I do, looking at the numbers, now I've actually done the video, because I look at the numbers first, then I start recording. I think Bruno Fernandes would probably be below all them, which means he's definitely getting a double-digit haul. So there we go. Good luck with your decision. Hopefully I'll see you later on the deadline stream. If not, good luck this week. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and I will see you soon.